Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
You know, when you start approaching relationships as a form of purpose, in order for me to live my purpose, I kind of need to be in this relationship. Or we treat relationships like our purpose, as in we approach dating and everything as if it is our full-time job. And because it matters so much to us and we've prioritized it in such a way that we start to hate it because it's become a job. And then we treat it like a job that we start to resent because it costs us so much. Sometimes when we approach life like that, when we approach our relationships like that, with that kind of effort, we're presupposing or we're fixating on a particular outcome because it has to be worth all of our effort. And that puts a sort of pressure on the relationship to be something that it cannot be, which is our end all be all. And so we ask ourselves, you know, why do some things last and some things don't? Well, when you're in your karma, it's karma, quite simply. But there are just times when relationships just don't make it. And that's not having to do with karma. That's just part of our fate.
Because there's someone better or something better.
Well, we don't always want to qualify it in terms of better. Because then that just says something, because that implies what you have is somewhat sucky or lesser than or mediocre, and that's not necessarily true. It's just different. It can be just as good, if not better.
Okay, fine.
Okay. It's a shame that we've set ourselves up in this way. I feel for those who have to go through this, where they set themselves up for the old paradigm, right? If I get married, it's going to be like my parents' marriage and it's going to last forever. Or if I get married, it's because I value relationship and commitment in such a way where we can't possibly ever end it. And when we've created and projected a particular outcome, you've then fixed your life in such a way where you have to exist within particular parameters, you and that other person. And when you do that, then you've just killed. I mean, you're again, when we talk about, and within partnership, we talk about the strength of the bond. And you've already chipped away then at the bond a bit more and a bit more. So what our fate looks like, as we've talked about the tapestry and everything, and you have these fate lines, again, along this big tapestry as we've described before.
Okay, we're going to need to rewind a second because this is the first time we've spoken about fate this whole season.
Is it?
Yeah, not properly yet.
No, I feel like we've brought it up, but not in...
Not really.
Oh,
not if we're going to base a whole episode on it. I feel like we need to talk about it just ever so slightly.
Okay, fine.
So just effectively, when you're in your karma, we don't need to talk about that because...
Yeah. So everything we do, everything we experience and realize spans some portion of our fate. And our fate is, the best visual I could give is pretty much a big tapestry of lines. And those lines are us moving forward in some way or another. They cover everything that we, as I said, they cover everything we do, experience, and realize in this lifetime.
Okay, can I ask a question that I just thought of?
Mm-hmm.
If the tapestry is like square, does that mean we're going anywhere? Or does that mean we're just kind of like going all around the tapestry and back and forth and round and round?
No, not at all. Again, the best we can tell you is that you're always going to be in a sort of forward-moving progression.
Okay.
And it never ends because you're going to create. So you get to a point where you get to the co-creative aspect that is unwritten or unwoven. Fine. And then you get to weave your own lines. But that fate covers what you had decided before you were incarnated. So before you came into body, you pretty much made your contracts and said, you know, for various reasons, you're going to help me grow. You'll be my partner. You'll be my parents, etc. And we've always explained when you're in your karma, a portion of that fate tapestry is just your karma. And that's what we call destiny. And you move forward with all your goalposts, etc. When you come out of that portion of your fate, as in you've gone through your karmic undoing process, you enter into the bigger fabric of your life. And that's where the limitless possibilities that we discussed.
Because you can fucking weave anything.
You can weave anything, and you have woven it already. If you are willing to be courageous enough, there's so many lines that have yet to be realized that you can do the more choices you make. And those choices are choices toward your joy, choices toward your happiness, choices toward fulfilling your purpose, choices toward expanding that purpose, choices toward not settling or compromising on who you are. So perhaps there's somebody else out there who is going to match you so much better, and that will enable you to expand your purpose even further. Mm-hmm. And then you're going and you're going and you're going. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
To me.
Hopefully one other person listening. Effectively, what the fate lines are going to show is the nature of the contract. And
What contract?
Huh?
What do you mean by that?
So the nature of your contract is the type of relationship you're having.
Oh, we're talking about relationships again.
Yeah.
Okay, we've gone back. Okay.
And the co-creative role that you take on in designing what you want your life to look like. As in, here I am, I'm now in body, I'm kind of seeing and understanding what I've gotten myself into. I may not really need to do some of the things I thought I was going to do. Okay. Or I came in with the express purpose of serving the world in this way, or serving my community or whatever, and I'm going to do it, but I think I'm going to do it this way.
Okay, fine.
Because it just makes more sense. The world evolved in a way where perhaps...
And I didn't need to go to someone else and be like, can you check it off? It's just my choice entirely.
Mm-hmm. And what enables us to do this, and this is me rewinding however many seasons, is come into your divinity. Because once you are empowered, you are able to conduct your life from that place, and everything also becomes possible, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Again, maybe just me, but effectively, if you know that you are the creator of your own life, it's not like I'm going to go to upper management and double check that I can repurpose my job spec. No, you just do whatever the fuck you want. If it brings you joy, you're doing the right thing.
I mean, who are you going to upper management? Your guides?
I mean, I don't know.
I'm going to go to Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
Or Archangel Gabriel, and we're going to discuss that since my purpose was communication, like maybe I need to change the form I'm going to communicate it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
you
also
just
what
do
we've
it.
discussed in other seasons is that guidance, once you get to a certain place, they're not anything. They're here to serve you and your purpose, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's in service. Again, I feel like that word is going to expand because it's coming a lot.
Yeah.
But my point is that as long as it's bringing you joy and it's fun, mm-hmm. you're probably doing the right thing for you. But the thing is that like that runs really counter to what we've always imagined, what we've thought, what we've projected, everything, because we've grown up with this idea that, and I think that's separation more than anything else, and people trying to just basically excuse their karma, right? Mm-hmm. If I make my karma into how it is, then I can just accept that it is the way it is, right? So life is about suffering. Life is about feeling not good enough. Life is about sacrifice, compromise, settling, all those things. You know, you've got to work hard and then there'll be a payoff. In order to be in love, you've got to make sure that you're the perfect person so the perfect person can find you. Like those are all really, like, I guess, interesting concepts. But the truth is, in order for you to find love, you just need to be you so you find love. Mm-hmm. In order for you to achieve your purpose, you just have to find the joy in your life and then do more of it. Like, I mean, we're not talking fucking rocket science here, but we just keep going towards what we think things could be. And so our expectations are like almost aligned to that.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is very damaging.
Yeah.
So from the expanded perspective, as you know, as this podcast likes to offer, most of our relationships are governed by three things: our growth and evolution, which is why we're here; our fate, which we would break down in such a way to see it as how we desire things to go, but in sort of in an intentional and thoughtful way.
Okay.
Yeah, not an impulse.
What are your desires and how can you realize them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you might not realize you want something until you've experienced, like in the last episode, we discussed a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't really want. And then we're like, oh my God, I actually really want this. But that could feel quite whimsical.
Yeah, it can be, but it's not an impulse. As in, it's not a place of, it doesn't come from a space of reactivity.
So that's what you mean by impulse?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's more about choice rather than you've made a choice, so now I have to choose accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay. And what's the third thing then?
The third thing is our power. Yeah. So
most of our relationships are governed by growth and evolution, fate, and our power. Mm-hmm. Okay. Explain to me the power one then.
The power has everything to do with our purpose. Right. And I think I kind of said that earlier in the fate discussion, is that what moves us through our fate is the power to actualize our lives. So if we're doing that when it comes to our relationships, it allows that relationship to become completely elevated. So
I don't understand. I'm really sorry.
Okay. I'm like, am I on the right track? They're like, yes, you are. All right, let me just see if I can explain it another way. A relationship isn't going to last if it's not compatible with our purpose.
Okay.
It can't.
Well,
because our purpose is our purpose, and it's part of who we are.
Well, yeah,
right?
But again, that means just a relationship won't last if it's not compatible with how we find our joy.
You might find that there's weird lines that intersect and that don't. If we say it like that, you're going to run the risk of making it sound quite blanket.
Okay.
Now, when we put it in terms of like where not all purposes like allow for that compatibility, our point is that the more you can prioritize your purpose, not as in it's more important than the other person, but if you are, I get it. It's the sourcing and be sourced, right? So if you cannot possibly diminish your purpose and expect that your relationship will benefit.
So it's a bit like, let's say my purpose involves me speaking in crowds, right?
Okay.
So it involves me traveling quite a lot, and it involved me living in quite busy places.
Okay.
Right? And I was with someone who wanted to live on an island as a nomad. Right?
How are you a nomad on an island?
I
guess
know.
you just wander jungle.
Yeah, I guess. So, there are two options here, right? Three options. One, where they then come join me in my busy life and fucking hate it. So I'm pouring my light into this relationship because I'm getting sourced by my purpose and, all the other things. And they're just kind of taking it because I owe them. Or there's number two, where I then travel and go back to the island to meet them all the time, right? Now, I could go back to the island and meet them all the time and resent them for having to go back there, right? So again, I'm taking all that light, I'm bringing it back into the relationship. And whilst they're happy and they're sourcing, sourcing and be sourced, I'm on the other side being like, oh, I can't believe I had to travel again to be with you.
I can't get a signal.
Or there's a third option where actually I love being in public. I love doing all those things, right? And the person loves doing their things. We both have the freedom to do what we want. But actually being able to go back to that island and having that breath of fresh air and the release and the relaxation pumps me up further for being in public. But also, so I get so it helps my purpose, right? So those are different ways. And you can see is that if something isn't, is that right?
You're very close. But in that scenario, at some point...
at some point it's going to fall apart. But
yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. We were going to say. But in that case, there would still be an expiration date. Yeah. Because your power bases wouldn't align enough. Would probably be the best way that we can...
But, however, if I also loved being a nomad and my work just required me to go to those places and I had joy from them, but I needed to go back for my power base and I lived on the island with the person, I just go for a bit and come back.
Yes.
That would be how it worked.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Got it. Okay,
yeah.
fine. So
Precisely.
that's how power works.
That's how power works, yeah.
Because also when you say power base, you just mean home.
Yes, but we wouldn't use that term. It would be the divine.
I'm so sorry, what?
It would be the divine.
I don't understand. How can home be the divine?
Because home is the divine.
Liz, I'll call you back. I'm just walking into the divine right now.
Yes, because it's not home. Home is...
So my apartment is not...
Home is where the heart is. Home is not a structure or a physical geographical place. It is
1 second.
Your power base.
I'm just leaving the divine right now to go get some milk. The divine is leaving the divine to go back to the divine.
Just don't set me up like that.
Oh, no, I genuinely was confused. But also, I guess when you talk about power, is that also it's knowing that you're making these choices, right?
Yes.
And when you say empowered, it's like I am imbuing myself with power to take responsibility for the choices that I know I'm making.
Yeah.
So it's not like let's say in that scenario, the person flies home from their public speaking events, goes back and they're like, I can't believe you made me. No, you chose to come back.
Yeah.
So you're able to take full responsibility for every part of your behavior within that relationship. Right? And both people are doing the same. So that also makes a big difference. I don't fully understand the power base bit, but I feel I hopefully don't need to.
No, not right now.
But then how does that work when you said people it would have an expiration date, which makes it sound a lot like death in a polite way, but
it is a death of some kind, right?
Imagine, hey, we're gonna date, but we're gonna have an expiration date. 1 second, I'm just leaving the divine. I'll meet you in 10 minutes. It's like, okay.
Sometimes
Honestly.
I wish I just didn't open my mouth, Rhea.
But my question is like, but also are there the moments where like just shit gets a bit hard? Like relationships get a bit hard because people are going through something.
A bit hard, yeah, is an
Or like
understatement.
you're like stretching, you know?
Yes, like having to hold space for somebody and then you're saying, I didn't sign up for this. Well, I know I did. But at that moment, it really felt like I really wish I hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was really stretched. But it's not the same. I mean, that was a bump, whatever. I was over it within like 5 minutes. Ricardo and I, we just continue to choose each other in spite of it all. But there are times where maybe we choose the other person and they don't choose us.
Okay.
We can't force something that the other person doesn't desire, right?
No, but then also, is it what we desire anyway?
Exactly.
But that's the thing. I think I used to always get so caught up in this because the games, manipulation, most relationships, they teach us how to like make someone want us. What we get really sad about is that they don't want us. But then we try and force it. And I see this a lot, you know, when people are like putting ultimatums down and things like that, because there's this romantic notion that if I love you enough, you'll love me, and then everything will be great. So I'm going to try and force my desired outcome on you because I deserve it for loving you this much.
Yes.
Right.
And putting up with your bullshit.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, the truth is what we really desire is to love someone who loves us back. So if they don't, for whatever reason, choose us, then we're not getting what we desire either way.
Well, ultimately, Rhea, what we desire is to experience the love we know we have. What we're really looking for in our own spiritual speak is the optimal person who's not only going to share that love, but beam it back to us.
Okay.
Right? And that can only be done when somebody is vibrationally compatible with us. Now, to determine in part whether or not that vibrational compatibility exists is to really ask yourself, does your path align? So it could be that I desire a relationship with you. You're not feeling it anymore. You're like, listen, I feel like it's run its course, right? And I'm like, okay, super sad for me. I'm gonna have to go and deal with that pain, and you go skip along your merry way and do whatever it is that you felt like you couldn't do when we were together. Fine. And as much as I could
Probably
pray,
just not say the divine as much.
fuck off. Oh my God, shut up.
Okay, go on.
And I could even hope and pray that maybe one day you would desire to get back together with me.
And that's possible.
Yeah, maybe. But like,
Maybe
if
I'll
you
miss
pretty
saying
much,
the divine whilst I'm chilling in my divine by myself.
but if you've pretty much determined, I'm not squandering this quiet time, Rhea. I'm just not going to. Okay, I'm going to try to stay on track.
Oh, we're just recording the podcast in your divine.
I low-key hate you a little bit right now. Now you're distracting me.
Tomorrow we're going to edit the book in each of our own divines.
That's right. And you know what? You're going to use that so many times, you're going to end up liking it. So anyway, so I could hope that maybe you'll turn around and be like, you know what? Sorry. Just in a weird place. I'm back to desiring you. But in the end, desire is... Oh my God. You're delirious now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
Desire is not a light switch. Not in this case. It's not the same as I'm turned on and I'm turned off.
Oh, interesting.
All right.
Go on.
True desire that comes from that feeling that we discussed in the previous episodes has everything to do with it's so wired into that feeling you have that you recognize what really matters to you and what's important to you.
Can you desire a person anyway? Or is it not just desire a type of person or a type of experience?
No,
I didn't know you could desire a specific person.
But what determines whether or not that desire can return so people can stay together is really having to ask yourself, do our paths really align, right? So if you and I were like, okay, can we come back together now? Like maybe you missed me or whatever. It's not about having similar interests or sharing a dog or anything. I just need to get through this fucking point. It's either purpose or true mutual longing that's going to bring two people back together.
But you're not going to necessarily... I think the thing with all of this is that we give reasons and explanations and all the rest of it. So I'm really trying not to laugh now. Be back in it. I am back in it. It's not like you're sitting there going, oh, it must be reason too. You know, it must be purpose that we're back together. Oh, I'm choosing this person because it looks like our purpose works. Because actually, purpose is like, as we've said before, which you may or may not have known, it's not a very tangible thing. Like, if your purpose overarching theme was like justice or teaching, the actual purposes don't have to match. It's not like, oh, I'm teaching, if you look at you and Ricardo, for example, it doesn't look like your purposes match. And we've had this conversation in the season before, but it's not necessarily about something so tangible. So it's not a very mental thing one can do when it comes to this. You just basically got to go inside and just be like, do I feel it? Do I want to stay with this person? Do I like this person? Do I want to be with this person? That's all it is. And you just listen to that and do it.
Yeah. And ultimately, can we create something together that we wouldn't be able to otherwise?
But again.
And that's a huge one.
But can you do that? Like, are you aware of that?
Well, at some point, you might become aware of it, but you can't stay aware of it. Otherwise, you're faking it.
Exactly. And also, it's like so conscious. So the thing is that we're making all these points and saying all these things, and they're all true if you really think about it, right? But in the moment, you're just like, I really like this person, or they're really fucking annoying me, but I still love them. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much all the information you have in a moment. Or, I'm not sure right now. I'm going to go away for a bit. Oh, actually, I really miss them. And like, really want them. All right. Those are, then you go back. It's just, that's what desire is. That's what, like, so from an intellectual point of view, I find this stuff really interesting. But at the same time, the reason why I'm now banging on about this is like word of warning almost. Like, don't get caught up in the reasons. Because if you're having to explain or reason your feelings, then you're forcing them to some degree or another.
Yeah. Faking it. I call it faking it.
Yeah,
We
or
used to call
just
forcing.
or hiding from something else you're trying to justify or avoid.
So we've banged on about purpose. And I've talked about how power, along with fate and growth and evolution, are what govern relationships, right? Now, the more in our power we are, and the other word for power is divinity. And I don't know why this gets thrown into it now, but interestingly, they defined divinity in a somewhat different way. Well, I wouldn't say different, but they expanded, just like we got to expand on love a bit, and then we've forgotten it a few episodes later. Divinity is the full-bodied knowing. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to say it in a different way. But the full-bodied knowing that we are here for something, and that we are alive and capable of so much.
On some level, we all know we're here for more than what we're currently experiencing. It's why we say fuck this, but it's also why those phrases are the most highlighted in every Kindle book I read. It's also why, and it's not because people want to feel important or feel like they matter to other people, it's that they know they matter to themselves, and they just need to give themselves the trust and the faith to believe in that, right? So once you're able to do that, once you're able to know, I matter to me, I am matter, I'm here for a reason.
Yes.
That reason is me.
Yeah.
It's just this will. It's this force. One thing that goes wrong isn't going to deter you from it. You'll be like, okay, it went wrong. It wasn't meant to be. On I go.
Yeah.
The reason for that will come later. I'll learn something from that I can apply as I make more matter.
Because I'm not going to give up until I realize what it is I'm meant to do.
Yeah. And realize might partly be realize as in understand, and realize as in make real.
Yes.
Right? It's both.
Yeah. Because it may not, and this extends to everything that's written in our fate, it may not and will likely not look like I had a thought.
Yeah, but nothing ever does.
And the sooner I can accept that, the sooner then I can move forward. Because that's part of the issue with relationships, because it includes relationships, but our fate includes all of it, right? What we hit up against with relationship more than anything else, because we can start to, we're at a stage where we're accepting that maybe our work doesn't look like we thought it would.
Yeah, totally.
Or, certain other aspects of maybe I didn't ever see myself living in London twice, right? Didn't see that one coming. But at the end of the day, what hurts most people is the stubbornness with which they apply their determination when it comes to relationship. Yeah. Like, I have to make this work. I can't let this one go. And that ends up hurting us. And the more we keep at something in the same direction, right? Kind of like the more you kind of come at something, as opposed to taking on other angles, you're unable to really see what's going on. And then what happens is then you're just kind of like, you end up going in circles, or you're ping-ponging. It's like back and forth, back and forth. And even if you're not in your karma, you can still be in a loop. We wouldn't call it a karmic loop, though. They call it circles. I mean, same fucking difference.
Again, we're not talking necessarily about the relationship as a whole, like end it. Because also part of what we've just been discussing is that sometimes you got to feel, do I want to stay here? And if the answer is yes, then you fucking stay, right?
Yeah.
What we're saying is there are parts of relationships that we also have really created and stuck to in our views of them that stifle the relationship in general. The reason why we're being more open with work or being more open with our expectations is that we're starting to understand that every day that we grow, every day that we evolve, every eternity we have, could be 24 hours, every time we totally change, we become someone bigger. We have more possibilities.
Because we have more freedom. Yeah.
So then what happens is that the expectation that we had maybe 4 days ago for how our life was going to pan out no longer applies because we can do more than that. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to still be looking at it from the person from 4 days ago and sticking to that expectation because that's the one we decided we were going to hold on to, then what we're effectively doing is we may as well not have grown in the first place.
Yeah.
Because now we've expanded, but we're still limiting ourselves to who we were. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't make sense. But the relationships can grow, right? Just think about it. I mean, even as simple as you meet someone and then at one point maybe you have a child. And so you guys just aren't partners, you're parents. That's a growth. That's a change, Or you move countries, or you have a particularly bad fight and make up. Whatever it is, like the relationship then expands because it has more experiences, just as you expand because you have more experiences. Mm-hmm. And to limit yourself by what you thought something was going to be well before you started living those experiences limits everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
No,
but then that's
really
why
does.
you end up staying in circles, because if you're limiting what you can experience by limiting your expectations of it, all you'll end up experiencing is the same thing, because you'll almost be trying to push yourself to grow out of those expectations. Mm-hmm. Because you're refusing to, you'll keep circling in them, trying to break out of them. Mm-hmm. So we're just giving you the cheat sheet here and be just like, guys, have no expectations around this. Let it evolve where it's going to evolve. It could evolve into something far more suited to you. Mm-hmm. And something that you never would have imagined, but you can't imagine it yet because you're not that person yet.
When I see this, I think about a lot of people who are trying to save their marriages and doing whatever it takes for whatever reason, either because they value marriage and they value lifetime commitment or I don't know what, but in such a way where they're really willing to effectively cut off part of themselves in order to maintain whatever that is. And if you're doing it to yourself, isn't if you're compromising. I mean, compromise really to guidance sounds like a death knell. I mean, they're really like, you don't ever compromise. To you, it's settling. To them, the visual they give when it comes to compromise is you're effectively losing at least one arm. You're not your full person in a relationship. And if you're not a full person, then the other person can't be a full person.
And then everything,
because then it's too crowded, right? So then you're asking the other person to lose a limb to make up for your lost limb. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I just think it's always so sad, because I feel like actually sometimes is it about just being yourself and taking the chance to see whether that fits first. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, then at least you know you don't fit. Mm-hmm. But like I think so many people make so many like assumptions as well, and like are so stuck in like what they think the other person wants and what they have to be. Like actually sometimes the best thing you can do for a marriage that's not, or a relationship that's not going well, is give it a shot in integrity. Mm-hmm. See what happens. Yeah. It might be the best fucking thing you ever did.
Yeah. And to be able to do that will often take, honestly, one thing I had to learn in my adult years is a shit ton of humility. That was something that Ricardo had in spades. And I had no idea what to do with that. It wasn't something that was ever modeled for me. I mean, my parents are very humble people in their own way, but I couldn't appreciate what that really meant or what that looked like in relationship.
You were too busy living in your divinity.
Apparently, I really was. It was all about exercising my divinity. I didn't take a step back and be like, where's the humility in here? And it wasn't about me. I mean, it is, in some ways, humility can look like not having to be right all the time, even if you are right. I think that was something I had to learn.
Because that humility ensures that the power is used in integrity. And ensures that everyone can be in their power. Yes. And no one's vying for it.
Which,
right?
by the way, also means not carrying the burden for the entire relationship. Because what some people might think is, I'm just helping them. Yeah. Right? Isn't that a humble thing to do? And the reality is that if you're trying to shoulder extra, it is probably a more of a selfish act than a selfless one.
And also, humility isn't selflessness or selfishness. Humility is just, I'm open wherever this goes, because I may know how I feel in the moment. I may know my next step, but I don't know everything yet because it's still to unfold, and I'm not that person yet either.
It's owning your place and being able to take responsibility for all your choices. Eek. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't feel good.
Okay.
I'll just say that. And the other way to break out of a circle is love.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that one, it's...
Oh, okay. So we've got to go back here. Sorry, I didn't realize what we were talking about. I just whined on about humility for no apparent reason then. So these are the 3 ways in which to move out of this kind of like, it's not a karmic loop, but it's a karmic circle, apparently.
Well, you wouldn't call it a karmic circle.
Sorry, it's not a karmic loop. It's just a circle.
It's a personality. It's like a personality flaw.
Whatever the fuck it is. But if basically your relationship needs a shift forward in some way, these are the 3 things that make it work. 1 is humility.
Yeah, the first is humility. The second is love. And the third is trust. But the big trust, the 4 pillars, right? Trust, faith, hope, and knowing.
Which is love also.
They form the foundations of love, but they are not love in that respect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're distinct. And that forces us to examine whether or not you really believe that there's more to your life than you can see at any given moment. And that's really important because we often lose sight of why we're here. We forget. Our culture and our societies have turned relationships into our purpose. So we've lost sight of what purpose really is. And so it doesn't matter whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or our children or marriage or whatever, because those carry the burden of what we think is our purpose. We have damaged them. If we shift our focus, we free up everyone for a more mutual experience of those relationships, whatever that looks like.
And it doesn't mean you'll spend less time together or the relationship will be weakened or something's more or less important. It just means the pressure of you must be everything and everyone to me.
And I must
removed.
be the same to you.
Yeah, is removed.
Yeah.
Because then it's just, I can have all this light and I can just put it all in our relationship and you can reflect it back to me and I can take that light and I'm going to do my purpose with it. And it's just like a power well.
And that approach frees everyone. It really does. And that breaks the paradigm.
And that's why even if things get a bit icky, maybe sometimes you're just getting lost in what you think your relationship should be rather than what it is.
Yeah.
And just be open enough to see what it is and feel what it could be. Mm-hmm. From there, it'll unfold.
Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.